Hey,
Hey, what's up?
how was your Easter?
It was awesome.
Was it
Yeah,
good? Do you want to elaborate?
no,
Fair enough.
go ahead.
Did you hunt Easter eggs?
No, I did not.
Did you have a dinner?
Yes, I went to the gym, and then that was it.
That's good. Our Easter was pretty low key this year too, but it was nice just to rest and go to church and just be calm for a little bit, slow down a little.
Yeah,
It was nice.
yep. You did Lent. How was your Lent?
It was good. I gave up social media, but I'm back on it now, so I'll be sharing the podcast posts again. I'm a little behind on that.
Nice.
I just shared the Amelia Earhart ones this morning. I'm gonna space it out so they're not all at once and weird.
Yeah.
I'll get caught back up though.
We've had some pretty funny clips come out of the podcast.
Yeah, the one you clipped from Amelia Earhart was cracking me up about the gypsum salt.
Yeah, well, you wouldn't stop laughing whenever we were
It was
recording.
hilarious. I was watching it earlier and it made me laugh again. That was so funny.
So last episode, I think it was last episode, one of the last couple of episodes, I mentioned that we only had 9 Spotify reviews.
Yeah.
We have 10 now.
Yay! That's
So
amazing.
now we're going for 20.
Shout out to our 10th person that helped us get there.
Yeah, I don't know who it is because Spotify doesn't really say, but
You know who you are. You're out there.
the person knows. So yeah, love. And you actually get to watch all the episodes for free, just like everybody else. So
But you're extra special.
yes, extra special. And so not as special as the 100th review.
But that could also be you, maybe.
Definitely up there. Yeah, if you take away your review and then wait for the
There's
100.
99. Don't do that.
Don't do that. Yeah.
All right. I want to tell you about something I did today before we start the episode.
Okay, go ahead.
Good. Okay, so have you ever heard of gestational diabetes?
Yes.
So people that haven't heard of it, it's diabetes that people get when you're pregnant. And it's not caused by your diet or your lifestyle or anything. It's just caused by the way your placenta forms. And some people get diabetes and some people don't. Just kind of luck of the draw. And so towards the end of your second trimester or your third trimester, beginning of your third, you have to go do this glucose screening test.
Yeah.
And so I did that, had to go to the lab, and you have to fast. So after midnight, you can't have any food or anything to drink, including water.
Oh, no.
Which is difficult because when you're pregnant, you have to drink a lot of extra water.
Yeah.
So that was hard to do. So you go there fasting, and then you have to drink this really sweet drink. And not everybody, but a lot of people told me that they thought it was so gross and it was so disgusting. But I thought it was kind of good. My first one was fruit punch, but it wasn't heavily flavored. It was kind of almost just a light juice flavor. But you have to drink it within 5 minutes. So that's a little stressful.
Yeah.
You got to down it. But thankfully, that was cold and stuff. So I did that, and then you have to sit there for an hour, and you still can't eat or drink until the hour is up, and they draw your blood at the end. I failed that one. I did not pass the 1 hour test. So if you don't pass the 1 hour, you have to go back and do a 3-hour version, which I did this morning.
Great.
So you have to fast again, and you still can't eat or drink until the whole test is over. So that's a little difficult. I was so thirsty.
Did you pass?
I don't know yet because I just did it this morning. So for this one, you go and they draw your blood right at the beginning, for your fasting level. Then you have to drink the drink, and it's twice as much glucose as the first one. So the one I had today was orange, but it just tasted like an orange Gatorade. It still wasn't bad.
Yeah.
Maybe a slightly sweeter orange Gatorade. And then you have to wait there, and they draw your blood after 1 hour, 2 hours, and 3 hours. So you can see my elbows. I look like I got bit by vampires because they took my blood 4 times.
A very wide-mouthed vampire, hammerhead shark vampire.
Yeah, and you have to bring someone with you because where it's so much sugar on an empty stomach, sometimes it makes people sick. So my mom went with me. Very nice and generous of her to go sit with me at a lab for 3 hours. So shout out to my mom because Dirk had to work this morning. So my mom went, and I felt pretty woozy for the first half of that test. About an hour and a half, I was not feeling good. And if you get sick and throw up, it cancels your test, and you have to go start completely over and try again, which would be horrible. So I was like,
Yeah,
please
that
don't throw up. Please don't throw up. But towards the second half of the test, that kind of passed and I felt fine. I was just hungry and thirsty. But it ended up being okay. I did not get sick. And then my mom took me to Cracker Barrel afterwards. And I
Nice.
ate so much food and drank so much water.
Nice.
So hopefully I passed the 3-hour one. If you don't, then you get diagnosed with gestational diabetes. And sometimes it can be managed through your diet. Sometimes you have to have medicine. But it's not the end of the world either way.
Go away after
Yes.
you're done being pregnant.
Yep. It goes away afterwards.
Nice.
And they just keep an eye on it because it can make your baby grow like really big, like too big. And some other things afterwards, like they can have problems with their sugars and be jaundiced and stuff. But if you know you have it, like it's manageable. You can just like keep an eye on things and it's fine. So it's not the end of the world if I do have it, but I hope I don't. But yeah, I just wanted to tell you about that. It was a little intense this morning. I was so thirsty. I wake up at like 2:30 every night, parched. I keep a water bottle by the bed. I moved it last night so I wouldn't be tempted to drink it. I felt like a cactus. I was so thirsty. Yeah,
Like a cactus.
I did. I was like SpongeBob when he goes into Sandy's bubble and he's so dried. Water. That was me this morning.
Yeah. Okay.
Yep. But that's all. Anything you want to say before we start?
Yes.
Go ahead.
Follow us on Instagram and Facebook
Anything else?
at Country Roads Creeps.
I'm gonna stop you right there.
And leave us our 11th Spotify review. And you know what? Not to neglect, Apple Podcasts or Amazon. You can leave us reviews there too. I just haven't been keeping track of the number on there because I don't use them. I use Spotify.
Yeah.
Because you know what? I hate when musical artists get paid a normal amount of money for their songs being played.
Gosh.
And
You're the worst.
so that was...
All right, I'm going to start now before you say more outlandish things.
No, I was just, I thought today about, the reason it's on my mind is I thought today about, South Park did that episode about Metallica, where Metallica was really mad about people pirating songs on like LimeWire or whatever. And so Metallica flew in on like their private jet and like from their mansions, they're like, we're not making enough money. And it's just, it was very, it's been on my mind because it's such a like an outlandish thing for, anyway, I'm not saying I agree with South Park's stance on Metallica having mansions and private jets and complaining about, anyway, go, just
Okay.
pretend I don't have an opinion about
We're
it.
going to start. All right. During times of extreme crisis, many survivors have reported the presence of a mysterious third man that helped them stay alive. Is this a trick of the mind, a guardian angel, or something else entirely? This is Country Roads.
Country Roads Creeps.
You ruined it.
I said it too fast last time. I said it slower, and now we're even.
So now next time we can get back in sync.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep.
All right.
Well, we were never really in sync. Tell me why ain't nothing but a heartache.
Oh,
Tell
remember
me why.
Oh my gosh, you know what that just reminded me of?
It was an episode a long time ago. I butchered.
You
probably
just did it
it
again.
again.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I said NSYNC and you
Oops,
started singing a
I
Backstreet
did it
Boys
again.
song. And now we're on Britney Spears.
Yep.
So that's twice now you've confused NSYNC and the Backstreet Boys.
Who cares? Who cares?
Oh, so many people, Shane.
Literally, who
care.
cares?
Everyone cares.
No.
Okay, you're done. Your turn's over.
Over.
So when you were talking about Admiral Byrd, that reminded me of Ernest Shackleton. I had mentioned that. He was also a polar explorer. So I learned about that on an excellent podcast called Against the Odds. And it's so good. It's such good storytelling. And they just tell different stories about people that have survived crazy things against the odds. That's their name.
Mhm.
Like they had one about Teddy Roosevelt when he was going through the jungle with his son and how he almost died. And they usually tell it in
Okay.
parts like they're in the characters.
Yeah.
So some of it is they have to kind of make up what the dialogue would have been, obviously, because they weren't there, but it's all based on the true facts of the story.
Right.
And they did one about Ernest Shackleton, and usually it's in parts because these stories are so big and it's just phenomenal. And so Shackleton was an explorer that got trapped in Antarctica with his team for 2 years because their ship got stuck in pack ice and they were frozen in and they couldn't go anywhere. And so after I got reminded of him again from your episode, what?
Sorry, you said pack ice, and I just thought of, at a gas station they have the bags of ice.
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, they got stuck in one of those freezers. It has like those little bags of ice.
They were trapped in the bag.
Yeah, they were trapped in the bag ice.
So anyway, your episode reminded me of him, so I looked him up because I just wanted to read more about him again because I got reinterested. And that's how I found out about this thing called the third man factor, which is what this episode today is about.
Yep.
So it's also called third man phenomenon or third man syndrome. It all means the same thing.
Yep.
So what happened with Shackleton is there was one point during his whole ordeal where he and 2 others had to hike for 36 hours over these mountains and glaciers in Antarctica. And Shackleton wrote, "During that long and racking march of 36 hours over the unnamed mountains and glaciers of South Georgia, it seemed to me often that we were 4, not 3. Mm-hmm. So there were 2 other men with Shackleton. They were named Tom Crean and Frank Worsley. And Frank also wrote, he said, "There was indeed one thing about our crossing of South Georgia, a thing which I've never been able to explain. Whenever I reviewed the incidents of that march," talking about the hike, "I had the subconscious feeling that there were 4 of us instead of 3. And then he also said, "It is strange in mentally reviewing the crossing, we should always think of a 4th and then correct ourselves." I couldn't find anything that Tom had written of his account, but it was said that all 3 of the men agreed afterwards that they had felt like there was a 4th presence there. And none of them wanted to be the first one to bring it up. Seemed like they're crazy. But after Frank said it, Shackleton was like, "Yeah, I felt it too." And Tom agreed. Right. So when they eventually got rescued and Shackleton was talking about everything that happened, and he admitted that this prompted other people that had survived extreme situations to also share their stories and similar experiences.
Okay.
So basically what the third man factor is it's the experience that when people have been in these really intense survival situations and extreme crisis, they'll report being accompanied by an extra presence. And so this third man or the extra person will provide guidance, comfort, reassurance, and just encouragement for people to keep going and to not give up. So that's the overarching idea of this thing.
Yeah.
So Shackleton's experience inspired part of a poem called The Wasteland, which was written by T.S. Eliot in 1922. And I'm going to read that little section of the poem to you. "Who is the third who walks always beside you? When I count, there are only you and I together. But when I look up the white road, there is always another one walking beside you. Gliding wrapped in a brown mantle, hooded. I do not know whether a man or a woman, but who is that on the other side of you?" So in that poem where T.S. Eliot wrote, "Who is the third?" that's what gives the phenomenon its name of third man factor or whatever. Because Shackleton's group, their mysterious person was actually a 4th presence because they had 3 men. So it's not, in these stories, it's not always literally a third person. It's just an extra person.
Yeah.
The group size changes. But that's where the third man name comes from, is from that poem. So I thought this was kind of interesting. A study that looked at cases of adventurers that faced extreme survival circumstances reported that climbers, mountain climbers, were the largest group of adventurers to experience this third man factor.
Okay.
Solo sailors and shipwreck survivors were tied for 2nd, and then polar explorers were 3rd for the most.
Who is 10th place?
I didn't see that one. Can't tell you. But it goes climbers, then solo sailors and shipwreck survivors tied, and then polar explorers. So that's just kind of interesting.
It's okay. So can I? Okay. So this is going to be one of the. I'm going to preface this by saying this is one of those times that I, number one, don't know anything about this subject. Mm-hmm. Number 2, don't know what it takes to do this particular thing. And number 3, would never do this, both because of ability, interest, and general fear of heights. But mountain climbing, I feel like used to be really hard, and now it's easy. And by that, I mean...
Hot take.
I don't mean easy as in like just anybody could do it, because I'm already saying I couldn't do it. Also wouldn't,
Yeah.
but it like, so who was the first? Hillary, right? Edmund Hillary, and he was the first to get to the top, the tippy top of Mount Everest. But they didn't have any like special equipment or anything,
Mhm.
and they didn't have any like, because that was in like the early 1900s that they did that, I think. But now there's like
1953.
53,
Yeah.
middle
I'm
1900s.
impressed that you just like had that name in your brain.
But
Um,
but now there's like hundreds of people that do it every year. Like,
yeah, and the Sherpas do all the work for them.
yeah, well,
Don't get the credit.
what do you mean?
Like, people can pay these Sherpas to carry all their stuff for them up the mountain and back down.
Yeah, but also like they take oxygen tanks with them, and it's like Edmund Hillary didn't have half the equipment that the new people do. So I mean, it's
Let me
obviously
clarify. We're not saying it's easy to climb Mount Everest.
Yeah.
Please don't misquote us on that. We're just saying it's different now. Like,
You can misquote me. I'll fight any mountain climber there is, but but it's a lot. I think it's a lot easier now than it used to be, and by that I just mean because of all the extra equipment and stuff. But
yeah, I would agree with that.
people still die all the time. Like there's
Yeah,
they
still
use
dangerous. for sure.
they use the bodies as markers, so that they'll have campsites at like the Red Jacket campsite or whatever. It's like,
I
the
was scrolling on
reason they
Instagram
call
the
it
other
that.
day and got a video of someone on Everest,
Yeah.
and it just had like a dead person in it. I was like, that is
Yeah.
crazy to just have right there in front of me.
They-
I don't want to see that.
yeah, they use them as markers. So like
Yeah,
you set
like
your
one of
camp
them
up
is they
at like
call
a
them green
place.
boots or something.
Mhm.
That's so sad.
You know why they call them green boots?
He's wearing green boots.
Oh yeah.
That's just wild, and they can't get the people back down. It's too dangerous.
No. Yeah, we mentioned that last time on the thing where I think you were asking, like, people going to Antarctica, they would have to rescue. It's like, no, they don't. Like, they're under zero obligation to go rescue somebody because they went and explored somewhere and died, because they have to leave them on Mount Everest. Like, it's too risky to go get them. So
Yeah, that's true.
same thing for like, didn't they say that about that? What was that submersible that like imploded? They said that they wouldn't
Oh,
go get them
yeah.
because first of all, it's too dangerous to
That
go
was
down there.
so
But
sad.
yeah,
That's so sad. Okay. It's interesting that you brought up these people climbing Mount Everest, because my first example of third man factor is from a guy that was climbing Mount Everest.
nice.
Yeah, so that's a good segue there. So this person I'm starting with, his name was Frank Smythe. He was almost the first person to reach the summit on Mount Everest. He was short of reaching the top by 1,000 feet.
Huh.
which
Scrub.
sucks. He didn't make it because there was a bad snowstorm and he was running low on oxygen. So I guess they did have oxygen tanks, but still, I'm sure different from how it is today.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Yeah. So afterwards, Frank talked about thinking that he had a companion with him, even though he was alone. And he was so convinced that somebody else was with him that he turned around at one point to like share food with the person. He had pulled some food out of his pack and turned around to give it to. He just like thought in his mind that somebody was with him. Now, that could really easily be explained by the fact that he was just like super low on oxygen and hallucinating.
Right.
But there's several other examples that we're going to look at that are a little more like convincing. But that was kind of like one of the big ones that comes up when you look up third man factor. It was Frank Smythe's experience, I guess, on Everest, because he said it was like so vivid. He just really was totally convinced that there was someone else with him, like helping him get back to base camp or whatever.
So he went completely by himself.
I think I don't know if he was by himself or if he was with a team and got separated from them, but during this encounter, he was alone.
Okay.
Yes.
So you would think like if you are under the impression that you're completely alone, and then you get the idea that there's somebody else there, especially if you turn around to like share food and they're not there, and then you would be like very frightened by that, because number one, you feel another presence and there's not supposed to be one, and you logically understand that. But then number two, you're trying to share food, you think there's somebody there, and then you realize, no, I'm actually alone. So
That's a really good point that you bring up, because
why are people not scared?
that's really interesting, and I didn't think about that at all. Actually, when I was doing this, all of these examples, everybody is comforted and encouraged.
Yeah.
No one is afraid. So that's
makes me
really
think
interesting. And we can,
more so that it's, well, we'll get to our
we have
theories
theories
at the end. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
So,
But no, that's a great point, that none of these do the people feel afraid of the extra person.
right.
That's interesting.
So, well, I was about to say that it leads me more to the theory that maybe it's a guardian angel.
Yeah.
But then also, like, you think about in the Bible when angels show up, they're like, be not afraid.
And they're like 82 eyes.
Well, I think in the Bible they show themselves differently, but that's the meme that everybody makes, is that like
they have to say, don't be afraid, because
kinds of angels that are like, it's like a wheels, like all intertwined and stuff, and they all have eyes, and there's a big one, and then they all make the meme that like, it's this one, and then he comes down and he's like, be not afraid, and it's like, sir, this is the most frightening thing that's ever happened to me.
Yeah, no joke. Okay, so these next few examples have a bit more detail.
Okay.
The third man. So the next one is a mountain climber named Joe Simpson. He wrote a book in 1988 called Touching the Void, which I would like to read. It sounds really interesting. But this was about his near-death experience in the Peruvian Andes. I don't know how to say that completely. But they're mountains, okay? So he fell off a cliff and like landed in this crevasse thing and had a horrible, horrible injury to his leg. And in his book, he described hearing a voice that encouraged him and gave him directions to crawl back to his base camp to get help. So that's interesting.
Turn left at the third oak tree.
Right. Pass this rock and take a right. Yeah, so that's interesting. Now, this one, it's a little more intense.
Okay.
So this guy was named Ron DeFrancisco, and he was on the 84th floor of the South Tower at the World Trade Center on 9/11.
Oh, okay.
So when the second plane crashed, he was trying to escape, but he could not find an exit. And he was right about to give up. You know, he had just kind of accepted his fate. And he was in a stairwell, and he heard a voice that addressed him by name and told him, "Get up. Hey, you can do this."
I've heard this story before.
Yeah.
I think.
I'm sure you have. So he said it was also more than just a voice, but it also had a physical presence that almost felt like it was lifting and guiding him.
Yeah.
Like not literally touching him, but almost like someone was taking his hand and kind of guiding him up and out.
Yeah.
So he was one of only 4 people to escape from above the 81st floor. And I think I read that he was the last one to get out of that building, but I'm not positive on that part. But that kind of gave me chills when I read that.
Yeah.
Okay. Next example. So there were 2 ice climbers. Names are James Savigny and Richard Whitmere. And they were climbing in the Canadian Rockies when they got hit by an avalanche that carried them almost 2,000 feet. Can you imagine that?
Yeah.
That's crazy. That's
2,000 feet?
Yeah.
Yeah.
In an avalanche. You're just getting your world rocked. That's wild. So unfortunately, Richard was killed, and James was left in really rough shape. Obviously, if you get drugged 2,000 feet by an avalanche, you're going to be in bad shape. So his back was broken in 2 places. His arm was broken. He had cracked ribs, severed nerves, torn ligaments in his knees, broken teeth, and internal bleeding. Not ideal.
You don't say.
Not ideal.
Yeah,
So he kind of just accepted death. He laid down and was waiting for it to come. I mean, your whole body's broken.
Yeah, you're just
waiting for it to end at that point. He said suddenly he felt something invisible close to him that spoke in his head and said, "You can't give up. You have to try." And then the voice also encouraged him not just to get up, but gave him like practical advice to follow, such as telling him to follow the blood that was dripping from his nose like it was an arrow pointing which way to go. So it was like telling him things to do as he was getting up out of the snow and trying to find his way back to his camp.
Yeah, they say like if you get buried in the snow and because you get disoriented.
Yeah, and you don't know which way is up.
So they say like you can spit, and whichever way the spit falls, the opposite way is the way out.
Mm-hmm.
So Yeah, that makes sense.
Now, this part's interesting. He said he felt the presence behind his right shoulder the whole way, and he eventually made it back to his base camp to get help. And that when he got there and received help, the presence left, and he felt very lonely. So that, to me, kind of suggests that maybe something was there with him, and it wasn't just in his head, if he
Yeah.
felt the absence of it afterwards.
Right.
So that's kind of like, maybe it's more than just like a hallucination or your conscience or whatever.
Yeah.
Now, this is my favorite example. This is a Bible story I'm sure you've heard before about Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego.
Never heard it. Why don't you tell? Actually, my mom is like sings gospel songs
Yeah.
in different like local churches and stuff.
Uh-huh.
And there's a gospel song about Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego.
Oh, yeah. And there's
so-
like the little kid song,
Yep.
the
And then-
Sunday school song.
and then there was also a VeggieTales episode about it.
Yeah.
And by the way, the VeggieTales episode and the Sunday school story that they tell you about Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego does not do the story justice. By
No,
the way,
it's a wild
we-
story.
I don't remember if we've mentioned this on the podcast, or maybe I think we've talked about it like
Uh-huh.
in person before. But we should do an episode on like some of the more like crazy, creepy, morbid Bible stories, because there's quite a few that like people would know from like their Sunday school classes as a kid that are not like almost unrecognizable.
Yeah.
Like
When it's not like censored for children.
yeah,
Yeah.
like we need to really tell like the
The full
Like
story.
exactly
Yeah. You
what
got
it
to tell
says.
it the way it happens. Yeah.
so
So this is a great story though. So this, for people that don't know, this comes from chapter 3 of the book of Daniel. This is an Old Testament Bible story. So Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, these were 3 Jewish men that were thrown into fire in a furnace by Nebuchadnezzar, who was the king of Babylon.
oh yeah,
And
bad dude.
Yeah, bad guy.
He's a
Very bad guy.
he's a what? Never-
Villain. Villain behavior. What were you going to say?
I was thinking of that time that soundbite that everybody plays of Joe Biden where he's like, "Corn Pop was a bad dude." That just cracks me up.
Oh man. Okay, so and the reason that he threw these men into the fire was because they wouldn't bow to his image, to the king's
Yeah.
image, because they would only worship God and they didn't want to worship Nebuchadnezzar.
Yep.
So when the men are inside the fire, they're completely unharmed. Like they're just standing in there chilling. They're totally
was
fine. It's not hurting them.
Somebody else in that fight.
Yes. And what's cool about this story is it wasn't the Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego that said that there's an extra guy. It was Nebuchadnezzar the king.
Everybody
Everyone that
else
was there saw
saw
it. Yes. So when they looked into the furnace, the king sees a 4th man standing in the flames with them.
Oh yeah.
So that's a little bit different
Who that
because
guy
it's like
was.
there's a witness. Yeah. And so the 3 guys had said beforehand to the king that they wouldn't bow to him and that they weren't worried about it because God would save them from the fire. And then Nebuchadnezzar described the 4th man in the fire as looking like a son of the gods. So now, like in Christianity, we believe that that was Jesus that was with them.
Yep.
So that's pretty cool. I like that story. So now that kind of leads us into the theories.
Yeah, so I think if I remember correctly, after that they pulled them out, and
Yeah, they
then
were
Nebuchadnezzar converted, right? Is that true, or am I making that up completely?
I don't want to like say for sure and be
Okay.
telling the Bible wrong.
Yeah.
Look it up really quick.
But so while you're doing that, just to do another tangent on the telling the real Bible stories from your Sunday school,
Mhm.
there are some like really like some cosmic horrors that happen in the book of Job. Like some of that stuff is pretty crazy that they don't really tell you about. And then there's
Yeah.
also like the like some of the book of Genesis stuff, like late stage Genesis stories that are pretty insane. There are like multiple times in the Bible where God tells this army to go and like a few different times that I remember from like Bible school where God tells the army to go in and kill everything that moves in the city and don't leave a single thing standing. And just like some really like the story about Samson is pretty crazy because
Oh yeah.
they always just said that he was like a really fierce warrior. It's like, no, he tore a lion from the mouth and like killed it that way. He pulled it from its jaw and like pulled it in half. And then he took a donkey's jawbone and he killed thousands of people, thousands with a jawbone.
You ever heard of that comedian Tim Hawkins?
Yes.
He has a song that it's to the tune of "Hey There, the Delilah," but he rewrote
yeah.
it so it's like Samson and Delilah, and it is so funny. That's going to be stuck in my head the rest of the night.
Yeah.
He talks about the donkey's jawbone.
Which, by the way, I mean, if you read the story, because they like when I remember in Sunday school, and I mean, albeit it's been a while, but in Sunday school they tell it like Delilah came to Samson and convinced him to cut his hair, and then he lost all his strength.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not what happened.
Is it not?
She came to him and was like, "Hey, what gives you all of your strength?" And he lied. He was like, "Oh, it's if anyone ever binds my hands together, then I'll lose my strength."
Oh yeah, I knew that part. Mm-hmm.
And so he goes to sleep and she binds his hands together and he wakes up and he pulls his hands apart and he's like, why would you try to trick me? And she was like, oh, I just wanted to see if you were telling the truth. And he's like, well, don't do it again.
Yeah, but
And
then he tells her another way.
He tells her another way and she does that. And then I think it's the third time she asks him and she's like, where's your strength come from? And he tells her the truth. He's like, oh, my hair, if anybody cuts my hair, knowing that she's going to do it, right?
Yeah, like she's done it 3 times.
So she cuts his hair and then he gets captured by the Philistines and they tie him up and they have this big party. And then he prays for God to give him one last bit of strength and he pulls the entire palace down on everyone and kills everybody, and that's cool.
Yeah.
So go ahead. I've already forgot what we were looking up.
You were right about Nebuchadnezzar. After he saw that they came out of the fire unharmed.
Oh, yeah.
He was like, okay, they're correct. They're worshiping God, which is clearly the truth.
Yep, I know my Bible.
I don't know that he goes about it the right way. He said, "Oh, I just had it. Hold on."
Does he was forcing everybody to bow down to him. So when he converts, he's like, okay, now everybody's forced to bow down to God, and if you don't.
Yeah, it wasn't great. He said that anyone that wasn't worshiping God should be cut limb from limb and have their houses turned into rubble. So, like, not the best way to go about it. He does have a change of heart. Don't do that.
Yeah, let's not.
Yeah.
Let's not do that. We'll leave.
Okay, that was a good storytelling. Okay, so now we're into the theories. So, John Geiger wrote a book called The Third Man Factor: Surviving the Impossible.
Mm-hmm.
And he's kind of had 2 different thoughts on it. He said it could be biochemical reactions to misfiring brain activity. But he said he personally believes that a spiritual explanation makes more sense. So it could be a hallucination or like just a way that your body is coping that's caused by extreme stress. Or it could be kind of like what you were talking about earlier, that it was maybe a guardian angel. I want to put a pin in that for just a second and tell you about this other theory I wrote down, but then I want to come back to the guardian angel thing, okay?
Okay.
So there's also some people say that it kind of leads into the theory of bicameral mentality. Now, I'm going to...
I know about that.
For full transparency, I'm going to read the exact description from Wikipedia, because if I had tried to put this into my own words off the bat, I was going to butcher it.
Okay.
So this is straight from the Wikipedia page about bicameral mentality.
Oh yeah, we love a good copy and paste from Wikipedia.
I do. I'd love it. So bicameral mentality is a hypothesis introduced by Julian Jaynes, who argued human ancestors as late as the ancient Greeks did not consider emotions and desires as stemming from their own minds, but as the consequences of actions of gods external to themselves. The theory posits that the human mind once operated in a state in which cognitive functions were divided between one part of the brain, which appears to be speaking, and a second part, which listens and obeys, a bicameral mind, and that the breakdown of this division gave rise to consciousness in humans. The term was coined by Janes, who presented the idea in his 1976 book, The Origin of Consciousness and the Breakdown of the Bicameral Mind, wherein he made the case that a bicameral mentality was the normal and ubiquitous state of the human mind as recently as 3,000 years ago, near the end of the Mediterranean Bronze Age. So, with that being said,
what a mouthful.
Yeah, my limited understanding of this theory is, help correct me if you think I'm wrong, but that when people it's saying that when people experience the third man phenomenon, this explanation is saying their brains are like reverting back to the way people used to think in the past. So not being aware or not being conscious of themselves making these decisions, but feeling like it's coming from an outside source.
Okay.
So it's saying like, I think like the guy that was in the avalanche and he felt like that other presence was telling him, look at the blood dripping off your nose, see which direction it's following. It's really him thinking that, but he's not recognizing that that was his decision and he feels like it's coming from someone else.
Yep.
Okay. So that's one of the other theories, is that it's kind of like in these extreme states of stress, humans are reverting back to the way they used to think, which I had not heard of before. That's interesting.
Yeah.
I don't really know that I agree with that, but I don't know.
Neither.
Interesting.
Trash it.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like, I don't know. It doesn't feel realistic that 3,000 years ago, people didn't realize that they were in control of their choices. Like, that doesn't seem right. But I don't know. I don't know anything about anything. I just tell stories. Yeah. What do you think?
I think two things. I think that it seems more like a guardian angel style thing.
Yeah, that's what I'm leaning towards.
But I'll say this first. Have you ever heard of people's DMT trips that they do, or like ayahuasca when they do that, or when they take like the DMT drug?
No, I haven't. You have to enlighten me.
So DMT, dimethyltryptamine, pretty sure is how you say it, is a hallucinogenic chemical. It is extremely potent. So I'm pretty sure that's what's in ayahuasca, which is like I'm going to completely butcher this off the top of my head, but it's like a South American or Central American, like basically a kind of tea leaf or something.
Mm-hmm.
So they can make like tea out of it. You can drink it. I think they can like smoke it and you inhale they like burn it and you can inhale the smoke and get it also. And the same thing with peyote, which is like, I guess you hear more about it in like North American, Native American tribe stories, but I believe that has DMT in it also. Anyway, a lot of people's DMT trips it takes them pretty much like out of their body, and pretty much everybody describes the same thing. They say that they talk to these elves, so they call them the DMT elves. And everybody who takes it has this. They have this experience where they see like these geometric patterns, and they see these elves who basically give them some kind of knowledge on, like, so they talk to them and give them information or give them knowledge or teach them some kind of lesson about themselves, supposedly.
Yeah.
That's with like the DMT stuff. Now, it's an extremely powerful hallucinogen, but your brain actually makes it. And people say that it's released a lot whenever you die. And so people say that people describe like their lives flashing before their eyes. They say that might be caused by the DMT releasing in your brain whenever you die.
Huh. That's interesting.
So I would be curious if something like the avalanche happens, or a shipwreck, or something where your brain is 100% convinced that you are going to die here in this moment, if your brain doesn't release like DMT that way, in like a near-death experience,
Yeah.
and you have some kind of experience that way chemically, that something that would make you hallucinate a presence or something that give you access to something that would give you information. That's where I'm making the connection there. But also, I think it's probably guardian angels. So
Yeah, that's the way I'm leaning towards
I mean-
too. Definitely some of these I think could be explained just by like a stress response. Like maybe the guy that was on Everest, he was really low on oxygen because once you get above that zone there, your brain is actively dying because you don't have enough oxygen to breathe.
Yeah.
So like some of those I think probably could just be like maybe they were hallucinating.
Mhm.
But a lot of them, like the guy in the avalanche, the guy in the World Trade Center, like a lot of those to me do sound like a guardian angel type deal or the Holy Spirit being with them to help
Yeah.
lead them out of those situations. And
Definitely.
like obviously the Bible story, that one really stands out to me because it wasn't just the three men there experiencing it. There was an outside witness, like the king looking in the fire and saying there's a fourth person in there.
Yeah.
So that those ones to me, it feels more of like a supernatural thing.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
I think I'm more willing to lean towards guardian angel type of things.
Mhm.
Specifically because like we said earlier, the people don't feel fear.
Yeah, it's not like with like the shadow people where everybody's scared of them automatically. Everyone in
Right.
these instances feels very comforted and very helped. So that makes me think something good, which would come from God.
I'm glad you mentioned shadow people because I almost forgot. I was going to say it would be interesting if you could, like you said, they did those tests on people's brains and it made them feel like they saw shadow people.
Mm-hmm.
Be interesting if you could do a test on people's brains, made them convince their brain that they were dying to see if they would have third man, if you could trigger it chemically
And see if they feel good about it, like comforted by that. Instead of scared.
So, okay, Phil, number one, put them in a situation, completely convince them that they're in a situation and chemically measure what their brain is doing and then see if they feel comforted by it. And if not, then you would know that it has to be a real life or death situation.
Yeah, and also a real outside presence, not a figment of your imagination.
Yes.
That'd be interesting. I don't know how you could do that.
We're accepting volunteers. You can email us.
We're going to make you think that you are on the brink of death, and we want you to report back.
Yep.
Just kidding. We're not doing that.
So, is that...
I also just wanted to share a couple places that this has been mentioned in media.
Okay.
And we're almost at the end. So this phenomenon has been mentioned in a lot of books and movies, like way too many to name. I didn't realize how popular of a concept this was.
I was going to mention a movie, and now I can't remember. Maybe you'll mention it. But there's a guy, and he's in like a mental institution, and he's being, he doesn't want to be there, and he's being tricked. But he has this friend the entire time who keeps giving him tips, and then it turns out that he's not there.
That's kind of like the theme of these other things I'm going to say too.
Okay.
I didn't pick that one, but that's how a lot of these go. I came up with 3 I thought were interesting to share.
Okay.
So there's a film from 2006 called The Guardian that has Ashton Kutcher in it.
Ooh, Ashton Kutcher.
Yeah, in the film, there's a drowning sailor that gets rescued, and he asks the person that saves him, "Where is he?" And he's talking about a man that he believes stayed with him and helped him survive, but he's not really there. And then you've heard of the movie World War Z?
Yes.
The zombie movie. So it was a novel first written by Max Brooks, also in 2006. I wonder if that was a typo or if those both really were from 2006 in my notes. Anyway, it doesn't matter. Quick spoiler alert for World War Z. If you have any
It sucks.
reading or watching that, skip ahead 30
Brad Pitt isn't even
seconds.
that good in it.
So in that book, A character crash lands in the middle of a zombie infestation, but is able to survive with the help of another character that was later revealed to just be someone she was imagining.
Yep.
And then in season 25, episode 8 of Law and Order SVU, can you believe how many seasons that is?
Season how many?
It said 25 on Wikipedia.
Oh, so, okay.
Season 25, Law and Order SVU.
I found a page on, I think, Facebook that's basically like Law and Order. SVU, it's not really clips, but they cut out all of the garbage stuff, the storytelling stuff,
Yeah.
and they just do the crime bits of it. And they've been posting like all the episodes. So I've been binging that and watching all the good parts of SVU where they find the criminals. And
It's a good show.
yeah, I didn't think that I liked it. Like as a teenager, I know it's been on for a long time. I just never really was that into, and I just always discounted it. Sup, Dirk? So, but I think it's really good. Yeah.
Yeah. And
I think
so
it's really good. And
I guess season 25 is the most recent season. Like
Yeah.
that's the newest one. So episode 8 of that, the episode is called Third Man Syndrome. And one of the detectives brings it up to Benson when the victim in the episode talks about seeing somebody who wasn't there. So then they start talking about the third man factor or whatever. So it's just kind of, it's neat that it's made its way into so many pieces of our media because a lot of people have had that experience.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's all I had. So any thoughts or things you want to share?
I would like to share the most recent episode of SVU that
Go ahead.
so this lady, they are dealing with this kid and he's like misbehaving and stuff. And the mom, I guess, like wants to give him up. And, but it turns out they're dealing with this case, where he's claiming abuse and, the lady on SVU finds out that his mom is the victim in a rape case that she worked for a long time ago. And so she goes talking to them because the case went cold and they never found the rapist. And then it turns out that there was like these 4 other women. And then the mom of this kid, the foster mom or adopted mom of this kid, was also one of these ladies that was in the cold case rapist.
Mm-hmm.
And it turns out that her husband was the guy.
Oh my
And
god.
so he was, oh, it was so crazy. What a twist. I tell you, I mean, I like that episode convinced me on SVU. It was really good.
Yeah.
I mean, very good storytelling. I mean, I could like put my curlers in my hair and wear a robe and drink my coffee and watch SVU all day long.
Yeah.
Like a lady.
You want to hear something funny?
Yes.
My very good friend that I work with, she just texted me and said, I think I may have died a little when Shane said gypsum is for your feet. And then you laughing at him, I'm gone. She just sent that to me. How funny is that? We were talking about it earlier. That's hilarious.
Yeah, so
So shout out. Thank you, Alicia, for listening.
yeah, thanks, Alicia. So if you are not following our page on Facebook or Instagram, that's the kind of stuff you're missing sometimes, is the clips of that. So because sometimes we've been pulling some funny clips, which, by the way, I got a strike on TikTok. So
For what?
I posted, so TikTok started like, I do like automatic, I'm not active really on TikTok. Like you can't get a hold of us on TikTok. You can get a hold of us on
I don't
Instagram or
have
Facebook. But I've been using the Country Roads Creeps page to just share.
Yeah.
It's just another channel to put up. And TikTok is actually good about like putting content in front of people that might want to see it. And so it's good to like get new people involved.
Yeah.
So I post and I checked back, like, I don't know, because like I said, I'm not active on there. So I checked and we had a strike because they started doing this thing, I don't know how long ago, that was, you can post like pictures and like scroll through them.
Mhm.
And So I was like, you know what I'll try is I'll put the pictures for Admiral Byrd on the thing and do like a little slideshow or whatever. And we got a community violation strike, and I was like,
For the
well,
pictures?
I don't know.
We're not profiting off of them. We're just sharing them.
Not yet. No. So
We are absolutely not profiting in any way, shape, or form from this podcast.
we're not profiting.
We are in the hole. We're in the red.
Yeah, to put it in perspective, like me and Hannah have been swapping the same, like, what, $35 the last, like, every 2 weeks.
Yeah, to buy dinners.
Yeah. So we've been, like, just handing each other the same $35 bill. Like, but so we got a community violation strike, and I was like, well, what for? And it says, it's because you violated the community standards. And I'm like, which standard? Like,
Not helpful.
is it copyright because of the pictures? Because that really, I don't think should be. Because it's not, I'm not saying that they're mine, and I'm also not using them in like a, I mean, maybe you could consider it like a commercial way, but it's not like, I just used them. And so, and then
Just shared them.
but they wouldn't say exactly what it was. So I was trying to figure out, like, in the caption, I did put that there were Nazi aliens. So I'm not sure if they just
Oh.
automatically flag the word Nazi.
I bet that's what did it. They didn't know the
But-
context.
So I deleted it. And so, yeah.
I
But
bet that's what it was, yeah.
I hope they ban TikTok, though. I really hope they do. I'm on board with who's pushing that? Republicans? I'm on board with them now. Whatever.
I really
Who
did have to
cares?
delete it because I was so addicted to it. I would sit down and just scroll, and it would
Yeah.
be like an hour and a half, and I wouldn't even realize. And so I had to get it off my phone.
I have that problem with Instagram.
Me too.
And because
The reels.
yes, and I send you stuff, but most of the stuff I send you isn't typically like me just like mindlessly scrolling for hours. It's like I'll open it up and see a thing because Instagram knows me well now. It knows the stuff that I like. So I got like car crashes. I got like memes. I got like, yeah. So I found a page that was like only like daily car crashes. And
It's not good for your brain to see that all the time.
no, not like bad ones, like the
Oh.
road rage car crashes where like people
Oh.
brake check trucks or like, and it's like, it's, you know, whenever you see something you can't stop watching because you just make it so mad.
Yeah. Yeah.
I get mad at people who like cut people off and then they get hit and they're like, what'd you do that for? It's like, it's your fault.
Yeah.
You did
Yeah.
the cutting off. Anyway, that's completely besides the point. What I'm saying is I get stuck scrolling, like I'll find a page and just scroll that page. And then when I get to the bottom, then I'm done.
Yeah.
And then,
Fair enough.
but yeah. And so, yeah, Instagram's very upset at, like everybody into competition shooting right now because they don't want guns on their platform.
Mm-hmm.
And so they've been flagging like everybody that's posting like their competition POV footage, like it's getting kicked off. And they're like, it's not, it's just competition. It's
Yeah, it's
a
like
game.
skill. It's not violence.
It's a game. We're not promoting violence. We're not, and they're like, nope, you showed a gun. So I've been seeing a lot of people like, they'll do like the, you know, like the sensor with like the little blocks. They'll like censor the,
Oh, yeah.
so it's kind of funny. But anyway,
All right. Let's wrap this up because my baby's kicking me right behind my belly button and it's super cute and adorable, but I need to get up and move around.
super cute and adorable, but I hate it.
No, I love it. I love that she's active and I love that she moves, but I do need to stand up. So let's wrap this episode up.
Okay. Bye.
And it's been like 4 episodes, like almost 2 months since we've had a good outro. So please do it right this time. Redeem ourselves so people keep listening.
Thanks for listening. As always, if you like the episodes, leave us a 5-star review on Spotify or Amazon or Apple or whatever other platform you use. And follow us on Facebook and Instagram at Country Roads Creeps. And you can comment and you can send us messages and tell us other stuff that you would like to hear on the podcast. Topics you want to see covered. And tell us how much you like Olive Garden. And Be safe driving home. Watch out for the not deer.
Bye.
Did I do it right that time?
That was good. Thank goodness.
I was just going on autopilot.
No, you did great.
Oh, I didn't say what I was going to do next week. I don't know. That's the news. So
We already said bye. Bye.
bye.